HRJust. And it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you today for the launch event of our project Intersect Observatory, with a roundtable on the role of research centers, laboratories, observatories, think tanks, and civil society. I'd like to start by thanking, first of all, my co-organizer of this webinar, Professor Lisa Fornalle from the World Trade Institute at the University of Bern, and Professor Thomas Ojanen from the University of Helsinki, and every research team in our consortium project who are working to the implementation of our Intersect Observatory. The observatory is set up as part of the HRJust project to promote a debate and dialogue on the state's use of human rights justification, approaching this from the lens of gender and intersectionality. And the observatory role is to monitor human rights justification through the findings and materials produced by the HRJust project. And its aim is to raise knowledge and promote a healthy debate and dialogue in this area through its digital library, work in progress seminars, web interviews, and much more, as we will present to you in a few moments. Just before we start, some practical issues for today's webinar. So we will follow the order of the presentation as indicated in the program. So we'll hand soon to the first speaker in a moment. And then we will have the presentations of all the speakers for the roundtable. And then we will have also time for discussion at the end of all presentations. You are very welcome to use the chat for any questions, comments during or after each one of the presentation. And then I will hand over all the comments and questions to the speakers at the end of the presentation during the discussion time. So now it is my great pleasure to welcome and introduce Professor Maria Granfalli. Maria is professor at the University of Gothenburg, Sweden, with a focus on child rights and from a post-colonial perspective. She's the coordinator of the Horizon Europe HRJust project, and she will kindly introduce our project. So thanks a lot, Maria, for joining us, and you have the floor, and I will also share your presentation.
Thank you so much, Federica. And as I said to Luisetti earlier, Federica is the James Brown of our consortium, as they say, the hardest working person in the industry, and we really could not be without her in the consortium. She is invaluable. So I'm very happy to be able to present a project to you all. So it's called HRJust, and it is looking at how states are using human rights to justify their actions and decisions. Next slide, please. So we are 7 work packages. So besides the basic administrative work packages, we have one that is looking at HRJust and theory, legal theory. And then we have migration, and we have a COVID, and we have climate, and then we have the important work package 7 that Federica is the work package lead for, HRJust and empirical cross-cutting, which is the focus of our meeting today. Next slide. So we have 15 partners across 9 countries: Sweden, Finland, Italy, Israel, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Czech Republic, India, Taiwan. We also have in this group Ukraine, but because of the situation there, our Ukrainian researchers based in Kharkiv just arrived to Gothenburg in Sweden actually last week. So they are officially under Gothenburg University, but they are directly connected and still operational in Ukraine. And we are focusing on 5 countries, so 5 area studies: Sweden, Finland, which of course are EU member states, India, Taiwan, and Ukraine as third countries. So it's a large element of third country involvement in this consortium. Next slide. And so what are we looking at then? So we are looking at 3 competing rights regimes through 5 countries and 3 crises. So the background of this whole approach is that Russia and the EU's liberal democratic approach to rights and China's cultural relativist approach to rights are 3 competing regimes about how to define human rights and rights within the international legal order. And these different regimes, they also are competing claims. They affect mostly Ukraine from a Russian perspective, Ukraine, Sweden, and Finland. Of course, Ukraine because of the war. Sweden and Finland joined NATO because of this. And then also, of course, Sweden and Finland also being members of the EU. And when it comes to China, India and China have a direct conflict ongoing, low intense one. And of course, everyone understands that Taiwan is directly, nothing happens in Taiwan without China being the backdrop. And then we're testing this series of human rights justification that we're developing through 3 crises: COVID, migration, and climate. It also has the different temporality. So COVID, we're thinking of what we learned from the past. Migration is quite an ongoing process, and climate, with its intergenerational principles, also gives us a good insight into the future. Next slide. So what we're saying that the human rights justifications take place on 2 levels, one horizontal, interstate, and this is mostly done. So we are limiting ourselves to the positivist redefinition of human rights. So it is treaty law based mostly. So here we are looking into how states are using the treaty law human rights regimes to reshape the international legal order. And the game changer has been that both Russia and China, up until quite recently, have been reactive to international human rights obligations, but now, especially since 2017, have decidedly taken a more active role in reshaping the international legal order through human rights treaty law. And we also then are looking at how these human rights are being used by the states themselves within states on a vertical level. And this mostly then is how states perceive themselves as implementing human rights and their human rights obligations. Next slide. So the big question here is then what happens when the horizontal level between these competing rights regimes also directly coincides or reinforces the vertical levels of human rights justifications. So when there are when democratic liberal values are challenged from within the liberal democratic states, and this coincides with the global arena. I think this is the last slide. So I think this is it. Thank you very much. So now I'm leaving the word back to Federica.
Thank you really so much, Maria, for giving us this introduction and this great overview of the project. And now we will, before starting also our roundtable, I will also present and officially, so we can officially launch also our observatories. So first of all, I will try to share my screen again. Let's see. Should be able, yeah, we should be able to see it, hopefully. So today we are very happy as part of the project to launch the Intersect Observatory, and you will see now from today is also live on the web, so is reachable and searchable. So we are very happy to have it. It's been a great work, a great teamwork, not only from the Work Package 7, but all for all work packages. And before present you also what the Intersect Observatory, what the website looks like, a little bit of a background idea of why we have chosen to have an observatory in our project, and also how the concept of the observatory has come from. Because of course the concept of an observatory for examining and monitoring trends in the research areas comes from this analogy from the facilities of an astronomy. Whenever you name observatory, the in the image, you of course you recollect an astronomy and this idea to have a close, a consistent observation of something. And this close and the consistent observation is essential to understand and follow the development of a given topic. And especially a topic of human rights justification, as Maria explained, is such a complex topic which includes so many topics, so many areas which intersect with each other. So we have climate, COVID, and migration, but not only, we have also these cross-cutting areas of studies like gender. For this, for studying and analyzing these areas, is not, of course, enough to limit ourselves to books or to desk research, but we have also to engage with civil society, which also is the project. The all consortium is very much into this all these activities with civil society. And in order also to monitor this complex reality, our observatory is developed with the idea to offer a space where users, stakeholders, especially academia, policy officers, civil society, can find the materials developed by all the work packages in the project. And these materials are presented in different formats, from working papers, video blogs, web interviews, and also the observatory will enable the connection with our experts in the consortium. So whenever users would like to dig more into specific topics that they see on the website, or they want to establish some contacts for future collaborations. So the idea is to promote also a dialogue on the topics of our project. And also, whenever there is also some events that are organized at the observatory, we are working on this. The observatory will also offer some, in our digital libraries, also the supporting materials for these workshops, so that stakeholders and the users, whoever comes to the workshops, have also a place where they can find back the materials of this workshop. And here a little bit also the people and the institutions behind the observatory, because it's, as I said, it's the work of the all consortium will also will be included in the Intersect Observatory, which is then developed more specifically in Work Package 7. And here we have not only the Institute of National Relations in Prague with our team, and some members of the team are also here, like Alif and Professor Bilkova, that will also present in a few moments. And we have the University of Helsinki, which is co-leading this work package with Professor Thomas Ojanen, the World Trade Institute, the University of Bern, which is also leading the gender intersectionality part with Professor Lisa Fornale. And we have also, of course, the University of Gothenburg with also Maria, who's kindly supporting us and co-developing also materials for the observatory, and also other, as you see, other partners of our from our consortium. And of course, also today I'm very super happy that also the webmaster of the observatory was able to join us, Mr. Vlastimir Lizak, who has done a wonderful job, because it's not easy, of course, to translate into technical terms and visual terms what academics are normally doing. So it's a learning experience from all of us, I think, and it's done really a great job. And I can show you, and we show you some screenshot from what is our website. So we have, of course, the homepage with the presentation of the Intersect Observatory, as also the link to our project's website, because of course the project website is where the core of the project and the consortium is presented, and also you will find also in the project website also our newsletter, which I kindly invite you also to follow, and also the link to our social media account, LinkedIn account, which I also kindly advise you also to try to follow. In the observatory, as I was mentioning, one of the idea was also to establish a dialogue with users. So this is why you will find almost in each page this get in touch form, where you can you can have your comments on the website, or more specifically comments on the topics, and we will be super happy also to hear from anyone. Then we have some screenshot, of course, our mission target groups of our observatory, which are the target groups of the project itself, so civil society, policy officers, international organizations, academia. And also one interesting features of our observatory is the closed section of the observatory. So stakeholders can reach out to us, of course, to have some the password, the login access to the closed part of the observatory where more dedicated materials will be shared with them. Normally will be, for example, draft working papers that we will not put it as public, but we're very happy to share for comments, feedback with our stakeholders, always in this idea to create this dialogue with them. And as part of the Intersect Observatory is our digital library. As the core part of the Intersect Observatory, we'll have a reading lists from the thematic work packages, working paper series, webinar series, web interviews, and video blogs. So most of these, of course, are in the making, so you have to stay tuned on the website to see them coming in the next weeks. Just to give you an example of what you can find in the on the website, for example, for work package 6 on climate, in the project we are conducting a climate litigation analysis. For example, we're focusing on all the climate litigation to all levels, and one of including one of the landmark ruling that you might have also heard about from the newspaper of the European Court of Human Rights in the Verein Klimasignorinen case. So what you can find in the Intersect library, would you be, if someone would be interested in having some more insights of what climate litigation is, you will already find a reading list on climate litigation international and national levels, who has been prepared by Work Package 6 team members, some working papers, also already produced. This in the closed part of the section, because there are still draft working papers, but working papers on which we are very happy to receive any kind of feedback, so that to include other perspectives in our analysis. And we are preparing also a reading list on gender intersectionality, because, for example, also in the case, of course, a human rights case of Klimasignorinen, it's not only about climate and human rights, but also about climate, human rights, and gender. And we have also some intersectionality issues about age issues. So it's a super interesting example on how to see how climate, gender, intersectionality issues are worth analyzing. And in the Intersect library, you have also this contact or expert section. So whenever you see a material and would like to know more, to contact the person, you have this form, and we will take care of it, and we will put you in contact with our experts. So you can name the expert, or if if you're unsure on who to contact, you can simply put in which thematic area would you like to receive, to have some contacts, and we will be happy also, of course, to get back to you. And as also in this idea, also to connect it with the civil society, as I was mentioning at the beginning, there will be the section where for the events organized by consortium member, there will be also a part where we can put for registered users also the materials from the workshops. There can be PowerPoints, can be additional materials, additional reading list, links to some landmark cases, or also to some readings that we think might be useful to further the dialogue on these issues. So I think it's more or less it now for the observatory. So we are super happy and super to we'll be able to have it presented to you, because it's been a great achievement, I think, also for the project. We have also Jaroslav Vlastimil, who very kindly joined. I don't know, Vlastimil, if you want to say just a couple of words from the more technical perspective on it.
I think you sum it up pretty well, what the website would be doing. And of course, I'm currently working on it, so it's progress every day and just nicely presented. I can say no more things because you just said it all. So I don't uh, I don't know what to say more. Just
Thank
exactly.
you.
Maybe
Thank you
if
so much.
anyone else has a question about the website, then you can ask me. But right now I don't have to say anything.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so the website is a work in progress. We're very happy of any feedback because it's part of the implementation of the project since it should be website useful for the users. So of course, it's any kind of feedback is more than useful. So thank you so much for this. So I think we can now we are now moving on to our roundtable. And it is my great pleasure to welcome and introduce to you Dr. Azia Metodieva. Azia is a researcher here at the Institute of International Relations in Prague and focuses on processes of radicalization, extremism, and polarization. She analyzes political developments in Central and Eastern Europe and the Balkans. She earned her PhD from the Central European University for her research on the radicalization and mobilization of radical and extremist movement. And Asia is currently involved also in another project on digital sovereignty in Europe here at the Institute. And she's also the counterpoint to the Institute for the V4 think tank platform. So she's the perfect person to speak about the think tank platform today. And she will present on the V4 think tank platform, bottom-up cooperation in times of geopolitical division. Thank you so much again, Asia, for joining us, and you have the floor.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I apologize. I had problems unmuting myself, but thank you for inviting me, and it's a great pleasure to meet you all. And thank you, Federica, for organizing this online event. I would like to apologize that I won't be able to attend the whole event today, but it is very interesting already to hear more about the project. And I will speak. I wouldn't say on behalf of the Think Visegrad network, but as a contact person on behalf of the Institute of International Relations. And I prepared a few slides for you because speaking about different institutions and organizations always entails talking about the goals, the mission, the outcomes of our activities. So this is why I think it will be easier if you follow with me, and I will now hope that I will be able to share the slides without struggling too much. Okay. Could you please confirm that you see my slides? Okay, excellent.
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
So as I said, and also Federica mentioned, the presentation is going to be about Think Visegrad platform, which is a bottom-up initiative coordinating and making the four Visegrad countries in Central Europe to cooperate over analytical and research work. However, these days, because of the war in Ukraine and recent geopolitical developments, we also observe some political divisions across the region, which also reflect to a certain extent the work of the platform. But of course, this is like a challenge that also brings opportunities, how to resist to this and how to actually enhance cooperation in times when politicians don't speak to each other. All right. So the Think Visegrad platform was formed more than 10 years ago. It was initiated as a part of the priorities of the Czech presidency in 2011 to 2012. Basically, this idea reflected the long-term interest and the willingness of the countries in the region to cooperate and to deepen their strategic, let's say, the overlap of their strategic interests. And currently, and from the beginning, this format was established by 8 research centers and institutes. From Czech side, representing Czech Republic, we have 2 institutes. This is the Institute of International Relations in Prague, and also European Center for Policy Analysis. This is just to illustrate, and I will show you the partners from the other countries, but basically each of the 4 countries in Central Europe, Slovakia, Poland, Czech Republic, and Hungary, is represented by 2 think tanks. A little bit more about how we are funded. We are funded by the International Visegrad Fund, and as I mentioned, the goal is to strengthen collaboration among these think tanks and research centers, and to maintain this bottom-up network of people who exchange ideas and do analytical work together. When it comes to the core activities that we implement, we first focus on, let's say, issues that are also issues for the Visegrad 4, but we also try to connect those to ongoing political and geopolitical developments. We also provide recommendations to the governments, the ministries of foreign affairs, and the presidencies. And in addition to this, we also advise the International Visegrad Fund. As I said, our structure is not hierarchical; it's rather network based, and this is why we have this very democratic way of making decisions about the topics that we're working on, also the events that we organize, and we all vote to select the topics that are priorities. But more or less, I would say that we have, you can see on the slide, several key topics that we try to cover or follow. These are our thematic priorities, including energy security, internal cohesion, EU institutions. Of course, this year the European elections are part of our priorities. We keep an eye on developments in the Eastern neighborhood and Western Balkans, and also when it comes to migration, transport, these are also topics of our interests. Further, environmental protection, Roma-related issues, and hard security. I mentioned our 2 institutes from Czech Republic. On this slide, you can also see the other partners from the neighborhood, from the region. The core network of think tanks includes the founding institutions with their coordinating abilities. However, I must say that we also cooperate with partnering organizations in each of the countries, and you can see the full list on our website. These are other think tanks, universities, institutes that are also interested in the topics that we are working on. And when it comes to what we do, what we produce, this is something that I will talk about in the next slides. But basically, as I said, we produce analytical material that informs governments, presidencies, ministries of foreign affairs, and the International Visegrad Fund. So while reflecting on the most current and urgent topics, at the same time, we also coordinate fellowships, and we organize some conferences that are also related to the topics that we follow. And here are the key written outputs that we try to keep as format. So we have 4 types of analytical outputs that we produce every year. And I should say that this is my first year as a coordinator on behalf of the Institute of International Relations. So I find it extremely fascinating how the network works. For each of these written output, we actually have to have co-authors cooperating over each and every topic, which really makes the network, how to say, we can actually see the results, and we can see how this cooperation is happening in very practical terms in relation to every analysis. So these materials, their number depend on the interest coming from the let's say the state which holds the presidency. Every 6 months we follow a rotation, and we change the presidency from one Central European country to another. Currently, the presidency is held by the Czech Republic. Therefore, priorities or topics that come as ideas from the Czech institutions are also discussed with us, communicated with us, and we write based on this interest. Most of the analyses are produced for internal purposes of the governments of the Visegrad 4 countries and the International Visegrad Fund. Therefore, they're not published. They're not like publicly accessible through our website or any other platforms. They're only to inform the decision-making process in the region. Another, how to say, a stream of support that we maintain is the so-called Civil Servants Mobility Program, which has as a main purpose to bring civil servants from neighboring regions to Central Europe. It gives opportunity to exchange experiences and best practices among civil servants from Central Europe and Eastern Partnership and Western Balkans. This is happening through usually study visits, and usually the participants are representatives of government and other institutions in the neighboring regions, including also regional and local governmental officials. The key objectives are to strengthen capacities of state and public administration. And I would add that the idea is to also facilitate dialogue and professional experience exchange, and to encourage long-term partnerships between these neighboring regions. So far, we have almost 200 visits conducted since 2014. And this entire process of application, of hosting, is managed by think tanks, by the very same network of think tanks in Central Europe. The budget for this program comes from the International Visegrad Fund again. The other stream of support that we maintain is a Visegrad Fellowship program, which gives opportunity to scholars, researchers, policy analysts from outside the region to come and stay in either Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia, or Poland for 6 to 8 weeks. They receive a stipend. Their travel costs are also covered, and the idea is that they can bring an external perspective of analysis to the region, but also engage with topics that speak to our key priorities, and also overlap with the interests and the priorities of the think tanks where they're hosted. Okay, and the last I think that I would like to present today is another fellowship that we maintain. It's opportunity for scholars from the think tanks in Central Europe, in Visegrad 4, to go to Brussels and to spend around a month there to write a policy paper, have exposure to European debates and the European institutions, as well as to be able to meet representatives of the institutions, create their own network, conduct interviews, and have access to documents which they usually don't have access to in their countries. So again, the objective is to present what the Visegrad 4 countries are doing or pursuing in terms of policy debates, to present this at a more European level. And this policy output aims to actually connect debates in Brussels with those in Central Europe. And as you know, sometimes there are significant differences which are also interesting from an analytical point of view. So this is the purpose, to actually analyze them and see how they can get closer. We engage with in discussions and different formats through our researchers who are sent to Brussels. They can present, they can participate in discussions there. And the purpose is to basically enhance collaboration between the two, between the EU level and the Visegrad 4 level. Now, I would like to finish with the challenges, as I started with this. As you know, the war in Ukraine brought some divisions among European states, and in Central Europe, this is particularly, evident and visible. The war in particular brought challenges related to, seeing the deeper divisions between EU foreign policy and what countries like Hungary, for example, pursue at the level of regional level and also EU level. This can have potentially effects on the Visegrad 4 cooperation at the think tank level, bringing potential frictions in aligning priorities and strategies. But also, the regions that we work with are also not 100% stable when it comes to security. So instability in those regions can also potentially affect the way we operate. However, this crisis also brings some opportunities. For example, we show that despite politicians and diplomats don't always want to speak to each other, think tanks are still the good platforms to actually cooperate and be the venue for dialogue. And of course, we, as I mentioned, we organize conferences that provide this space for networking and dialogue between the think tanks, and we really try to prevent this in times of political divisions. I will stop here and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Asia. That was great, and I think it's a very good example also of how think tanks also can cooperate also at the sub-regional level also in Europe. So thank you so much for bringing this to us, and this brings to our next speaker, Professor Federico Luisetti from the University of St. Gallen in Switzerland. Federico is Professor of Italian Studies and Environmental Humanities at the University of St. Gallen. He is the author of books and essays on critical theory and ecology, including non-human subjects and ecology of Earth beings, published recently, 2023, by Cambridge University Press, and also The Enemy of the Earth, Philosophy, Politics and Autonomy in Europe and Americas, co-edited with John Pickles and Wilson Kaiser, and published by Duke University Press in 2015, and with Florina Gradin. He's the founder and coordinator of Unruly Natures, a collaborative research project and network in political ecology. At Federico, we present on Unruly Natures, and we are very looking forward to hear. And thank you so much, Federico, for joining us. Also, I know that, and also this goes also for Annelies, because I know that in many parts of Europe and today is holidays. So thank you for joining us, also for being also on this festive day. Thank you so much. The floor is yours, Federico. Thank you.
Thank you, Federica. Can you hear me? Can you see my slides? Yes?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad to participate to the launch of the Intersect Observatory and also meeting the other partners and participants. Let me see if I can move to the slides. So you have already introduced the context and the background of our project, Unruly Nature. And if compared to the previous program, Unruly Nature is definitely a small, autonomous, bottom-up, self-funded, unruly project. I will spend the next 10 minutes describing some of our main concerns, methodologies, outputs, and why we have created this particular way of intersecting civil society and also reshaping research priorities. So first of all, let me say that the project is hosted by the University of St. Gallen, where I work. It's self-funded, and we use some of the resources of my chair and also of the participants that join in for different activities that we promote. And in 2021, together with my research collaborator here at St. Gallen, Florina Gradini, who is the designer and ecologist who works at other institutions as well, we thought that would have been important to envision ways of doing research that are not solely dependent on institutional funding, that are not dependent on the temporality of receiving grants or mandates of institutions. And so we envision Unruly Nature. Unruly Nature is a research and action collaborative research project, which is by design transdisciplinary and intersectional. It's centered around questions of political ecologies and environmental humanities. And as I was saying before, is the linked from a specific source of funding. So this allows us to experiment with encounters and also with research methodologies. And I will describe those ways of approaching our research topics and also our forms of collaboration in the next few minutes. All right. Sorry, I have a screen that, okay, this just popped up. So why Unruly Nature, this title, and why the website? The website is very important for us because it acts as a magnet for all the initiatives that we promote, for all the collaboration, for all the conversation and the field work that we do. So in a way, I think we mirror the inspiration that is behind the Intersect Observatory as well, right? The website is very important for us. It's central to all of our initiative. It's a true meeting place. But another fundamental aspect for us is a topic that is emerging within the law, but has also implications that go way beyond the legal world. And this topic is the subjectivization of nature. So as you may all be aware, rights of nature have been spreading, and they originally emerged in indigenous contexts, but as the case of the Mar Menor in Spain demonstrate, they are becoming more and more relevant also in non-indigenous contexts and also in Western countries that don't have indigenous population that are claiming ancestral rights. So starting from the recognition of this process of subjectivization of nature, our projects started to look at the other than human or non-human world. We started to inquire natures that we perceived as having some form of subjectivity, although these natures are not human. So ecosystems, for instance, or animals, non-human animals, or in general, eco-social subjects that do not exclusively belong to our human society. So other forms of being social, of being subjects. And once we started looking at these forms of subjectivity, we realized that it was important to envision ways of collaborating that included also artists, that included scientists, that included activists and communities that were engaged with these natures, such as mountains, glaciers, lagoons, rivers, that were perceived by these researchers and activists as endowed with forms of subjectivity, and yet did not receive yet any form of protection, legal protection, or political representation. So very briefly, I show you some examples of our methodologies, of our research topic, taken from our website, Unruly Natures. And then, of course, I'm glad to continue the conversation and answer to your question later on. So the website is organized around these 4 axes: places, people, a journal, and events. And these are just some of the people, research fellows that join our project, collaborate with us in different circumstances, and they are all active across Europe and beyond, in Switzerland, in France, in the Netherlands, and in many other places. There are about 30 researchers, activists right now that have joined Unruly Natures, which is, by the way, a project, I haven't said that, probably that we launched in 2018, so quite recently. Sorry, 2021, so quite recently. As for the events, we promote a huge variety of events, from book presentation, book launches, lectures, both in presence and online, that cover a wide range of topics in political ecologies, at the intersection of decolonial ecologies, of political ecologies, of design, and many other fields. And these are just some recent examples of this conversation, and that take place around these events. All right, so another important axis is what we call places, and these are initiatives that we curate, design around field work. So each year we identify some relevant form of eco-social relation, which often also carries with itself forms of tension or divergences, and that also has prompted a lot of studies and activism. And we go to these places together with some of our collaborators. Some researchers are always representative of local struggles of or researchers. Some are scientists, some are activists, some are artists and designers. Others instead come from the outside, and so we explore the lagoon, the Venice lagoon, and then urban nature, so water issues, urban nations around Zurich in 2022, context of energy production higher up in the mountains in the Valais canton of here in Switzerland. And what happens is that after this field work and conversation, collaborations, and unruly encounters, a lot of projects that could take different forms, from writing to video essays to formal instead research, collaboration, or project application take place, and we collect them and we publish them in our journal. These are some of the examples taken from our online journal. The journal also serves as a repository of other researches conducted by partners that join our project. And these are some of the examples of these conversations that are going on through the journal section of Unruly Natures. You will see there's a wide range of topics that we are exploring, and some of them are connected directly to the field work, and these contents are generated after this collaborative research that take place yearly. Others instead are unrelated to the field work, but are still part of our website. And this is just one example, to be more concrete, of an interesting case study that we explored in 2022 in Groningen. This is a journal entry by Joost de Blois from the University of Amsterdam on these particular case studies. And Groningen is a small village near Zurich, 20 kilometers. Here, a local community has been trying to protect a small forest of 10 hectares for the last 18 years from the development of a gigantic waste management facility. And their struggle has generated in a lot of interesting conversations about definition of natures, of conservation. For example, Pro Natura did not join their effort to protect the forest because the trees were deemed not interesting enough from an ecological perspective. So after this collaboration and that took place in the field work, a lot of knowledge productions happened about forms of activism, of nature protection related to this unruly struggle that is still taking places around Groningen. And to understand these topics, we collaborate a lot also with partners from the Global South. So for instance, the notion of terricide for us is very important. It comes from ecofeminism in South America. And the decolonial inspiration of our project is really important, and this leads me to the last slide. Our most recent project is a collaborative research project on river justice and river transition. Here we collaborate with a group of activists from the region of Cali in Colombia that have been producing new knowledge form interaction with the river Cauca and river basin. And we visited them a few weeks ago, and these researchers will be in Zurich in September. And what we do is try to understand different contexts. On the left, you see the Cauca River in Colombia. On the right, the Limmat River in Switzerland. And we think through these different contexts, and we test our methodologies. We learn from each other. And so with this, I think I can conclude my presentation. Thank you very much, Federica.
Thank you so much, Federico. That was super interesting, and I think you're doing a wonderful job, and it's a great example on how to have research projects really connecting also with the outside, with the civil society, really. So thank you so much. That was really great. And now I'm very happy to move to our next speaker, Dr. Yolanda Ursa. Yolanda is the Director of Innovation Management at Inmark, and Yolanda has worked in marketing research and strategic consultancy throughout her career, and she is an expert in innovation management and international cooperation. With a background in social sciences and humanities, Yolanda has an extensive experience as project manager, coordinator of research and innovation projects funded by the EC framework programs, and her research areas cover a wide range of digital and emerging technologies, including cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, IoT, big data, digital gaming technologies, energy transition, health and well-being. Yolanda contributes significantly to the human factors of technological solutions, including gender analysis and intersectional bias. She is actively involved in supporting policy dialogues in science, technology, and innovation between Europe and strategic partner countries, leading the Horizon 2020 project Gender STI to promote the integration of the gender perspective in STI in bilateral and multilateral dialogues between Europe and third countries, including Canada, US, Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, South Africa, India, and South Korea. And currently, she is the chair of the Secretariat of the European Observatory on Gender in STI. I am very happy to have you here, Yolanda. And Yolanda will present on the European Observatory on Gender in STI, a hub supporting gender equality in international cooperation in STI. Thank you so much, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Federica. Thank you for this nice introduction, and especially for your invitation to this event. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to have the opportunity to present the European Observatory on Gender in STI. Have you seen my screen? It's okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, so we launched the European Observatory on Gender in STI in October 2022 as part of the Gender STI project. This project, as Federica mentioned, was funded by Horizon 2020 and to investigate how gender equality is taken into consideration in science, technology, and innovation bilateral and multilateral dialogues between European countries and 10 selected third countries that were including Canada, the US, Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, South Africa, India, South Korea, and China. And so we created this observatory that is first of its kind in Europe to act as a hub to connect organizations and initiatives supporting gender equality in science, technology, and innovation, and international cooperation. So the observatory serves as a repository of knowledge and materials from European and third countries, ensuring an international scope from countries around the world. What can you find on the European Observatory on Gender in STI? So we have structured the observatory in 4 sessions. The number 1 is dedicated to gender equality in international science, technology, and innovation dialogues. Number 2 is about the co-design labs and gender equality solutions. The co-design labs were one of the main instruments that we use in the Gender STI project to co-create prototypes and solutions to face the challenges of gender equality in science, technology, and innovation. The third section of the observatory is about the Gender STI community of practice. And finally, we have a section dedicated to shared resources. So let me give you some details about each of these sessions. So in the first one, you can find a mapping study that includes 128 agreements from 51 countries that investigate gender equality in science, technology, and innovation in the framework of these bilateral and multilateral agreements. We also include in this study insights on the influence of artificial intelligence patents and policies on gender equality, and also policies and trends on gender equality in Europe and worldwide. In the co-design labs and gender equality solutions, so we believe that our experience can serve to other investigations and to other observatories as well. So we share the methodology of the labs that were hosted by the Gender STI project to, as I said before, to address critical challenges facing women in STI, namely gender equality in scientific careers, gender equality in the decision-making process, and gender equality in the content of research and innovation. And also we have a repository of the solutions designed during the labs. In total, we created 4 prototypes. Some of them have been already implemented, others are in the process for implementation. And we also included some storytelling behind the co-designed prototypes. So, for example, the training manual on inclusiveness in research, but also guidelines for science, technology, and innovation institutions to diversity balance in the decision-making process. And in general, storytelling about how the co-creation process was conducted is the co-design lab. Then we also provide access to our community of practice that currently has more than 200 members, and it's a driver for the European Observatory because the members of the community of practice serve as ambassadors promoting good practices and current trends on gender equality in STI. So we inform about the goals and mission of the community of practice, access to the members, and we have created a collaborative workspace with access to the Basecamp platform. Okay. And then we have a very interesting section about resources. So because our observatory houses a wide range of reports, policy briefs, videos, tools, and infographics on gender equality. The section includes 3 work areas, including gender content in STI, gender equality in scientific careers, gender equality in research and innovation international cooperation, gender equality plans, and gender equality policies. And also we have a section that provides insights on data about surveys, studies, and statistics and indicators. So overall, we have, as of today, more than 80 resources produced not only by our project Gender STI, but also by 23 SIXTA projects that are dedicated to different aspects of gender equality and other 10 related initiatives. The content comes from 24 countries, including European countries, but also from Africa, North America, and South America. So I would like to invite you to explore our observatory and to share your materials, policies, documents that you consider are important, because I think that with the HRJust Intersect Observatory, we have many things in common because, for example, gender, of course, is an intersectional issue, cross-cutting issue. And it is important to share the different experiences. So you are invited to our observatory as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. That was fantastic. Again, it's great to learn more about us, your observatory. I mean, I already knew it. It's great. So you're doing a wonderful job there. So thank you so much for sharing it with us. And this links also to the presentation of another observatory from with Ms. Anna-Lee Quessan. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. And Annalie is a dedicated advocate for gender equality, diversity, and migration inclusion, and she is the policy officer for the Gender Equality, Diversity, and Migration portfolios at the Council of European Municipalities and Regions, SEMR, developing the work in these fields in synergy with our member association at the local and regional level. Her current policy and advocacy work focuses mainly on combating violence against women in politics. And before joining the Council of European Municipalities and Regions, she worked at the European Commission and in various NGOs that focused on migration in the Horn of Africa, health advocacy, and women's political participation. She studied political science, international development, and gender studies in Montreal, Canada, and Aalborg in Denmark. And recently, she completed her MSc in diplomatic studies at the University of Oxford. And before changing career paths, she worked also in the hotel industry, and she holds also a degree in international hotel management from the Institut de Tourisme et d'Hôtellerie du Québec in Montreal, Canada. And Annalie, she will present on the Observatory of the European Charter for Equality, so achieving gender equality at the local level. Thank you so much for joining us, Annalie, and you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Federica, for having me. And thank you so much to the previous speakers for presenting your work. It has been very interesting so far. I'm very excited to see what the upcoming speakers will present as well. So for those who might not be familiar with the Council of European Municipalities and Regions, I would like to give a brief introduction of our organization. If I can make it, there we go. CMR is a representative and democratic political organization that was founded in 1951, and we are based in Brussels, Belgium. CMR is the oldest and the broadest European association of local and regional governments. We are the only organization that encompasses 60 national associations of local and regional governments spanning 41 countries. Through them, we bring together more than 110,000 local and regional governments across all tiers of governments. So that will be local, intermediate, as well as regional. We cover different thematics such as gender equality and diversity, which is one of the reasons why I was invited today, environment, cohesion policy, governments, migration, and inclusion as well. And the main goal of the CMR is to ensure that LGRs are involved in shaping and designing European and national policies and be given an opportunity to influence global and international dialogues. And then since 1983, we have been actively working to promote equality between men and women in all their diversities in the decision-making process. And this is also one of the reasons I was invited to speak today, which was to talk about our observatory. And the main question is, how did we establish our observatory? In 2004, the European Commission supported a project that was initiated by the CMR on the elaboration of a portrait of a virtual town in which gender equality is fully achieved. By identifying examples in various methods put in place, CMR provided a concrete tool for local and regional authorities on how they could work to achieve equality. The results of the project was to publish a brochure called The Town for Equality, gathering examples of good practices from around 100 European cities and communities in 11 of their fields of expertise. However, during the project, it became clear that there was a lack of expertise and of instruments enabling the setting of a global gender equality policy at the local and regional level. As you all know, we have it very much at the international level, at the national level, but there was a gap at the local and regional level. So once the Town for Equality was virtually established, CMR wished to encourage local and regional governments to take it a step further in making this a reality by making a political commitment. And so this is how the idea of establishing the European Charter for Equality of Women and Men in Local Life was born. The Charter encourages signatories to take specific measures to implement the provisions set out in the document. However, a regular comment that we received was that signatories were not able to draft specific action plans, and it became clear that the signatories were lacking examples of good practices and expertise to move forward from the signatory stage to the implementation stage. And based on this observation, to respond to the growing demand of support from signatories and to continue CMR's engagement for equality, we established the observatory in 2011 of the European Charter for Equality of Men and Women in Local Life. And then, so we have a few, as I said, it was established in September 2011 because of the growing interest of the Charter and engagement for equality. So what are the objectives of the observatory? The main objective of the observatory is to help European and local and regional authorities to develop local policies for equality between men and women in all their diversities through the realization of objectives outlined in the specific charter. So we have a set of principles in that charter, and as of now, we have 39 articles that go from climate change to cyber violence to digitalizations and so on. And so how are we trying to achieve this? By supporting the development of action plans, the monitoring of the implementation, and the evaluation of the impact on the ground, so on the local level of the signatories who have signed the charter. The observatory is also in charge of increasing the visibility of the charter and promoting exchanges between the signatories. So on the website, they're able, signatories from Spain are able to share what they're doing, which can signatories from Italy, France, Germany can then look at and see, is this a way that we can also, is this something we can implement as well at our local level? So the observatory, and through that, the observatory has established a network of national coordinators composed of administrators and experts working with the charter from CMR's member association, and this network oversees supporting the observatory's activities in monitoring the implementation of the charter by maintaining contact with the signatories and disseminating information related to the charter at the national level. And as one can assume, we've had some really great results, but we also experienced some challenges when it comes to the implementation as well as the maintaining the observatory. So through the Atlas of Signatories of the Charter, which you will be able to see on our website, we're able to track all of the towns and municipalities that have tried to sign the Charter since it was started first in 2009, which is over 2,717 signatories in 36 countries so far. And we are also in the process of translating the Charter in 28 languages. At the moment, we have the Charter available in the following languages: English, French, German, Swedish, Georgian, Turkish, and Macedonian. And the reason why we wanted to actually translate it in all the languages available in Europe is because we've noticed it also facilitates the exchange and to promote gender equality at the local level, because not every mayor or expert at the local level is fluent in English. And I've also noticed, which was an exchange with our Swedish members, is that they have different terms when it comes to gender equality in Swedish. So it was a lot easier to have the charter translated in their mother tongue so that they can disseminate what we're trying to achieve for the local and regional authorities. Furthermore, the signatories have drafted the action plans, which they seek to implement in the coming years. And additionally, our member associations, with the support of the national coordinators, have organized conferences and events around the Charter and around the observatory to show how to implement and use this instrument to promote and achieve gender equalities. But as I've mentioned, we've also encountered and continue to encounter some barriers and challenges to the implementation of the Charter and its observatory. During the implementation phase, the challenges we encountered were the lack of resources, whether financially, time, or human resource-wise, for some of the signatories to effectively implement the Charter and the observatory, especially for small towns and cities at the local and regional level. It was very difficult. After the signing, the signatories need to conduct a diagnostic and review of a wide range of information to gain a better understanding of the situation of gender equality in their local and regional authorities, which requires a lot of time and resources that many of the authorities do not have. Afterwards, they need to draft an action plan that will present their priorities and how they will address them. And of course, there's also this, gap of knowledge within the constituencies as well when it comes to what is gender equality, what is intersectionality, and sometimes that is also a barrier to get the message across. And this comes to the main challenge that we've also faced, is that we've encountered a lack of training and expertise around the Charter and the observatory from our national coordinators to train the local and regional authorities in their region and towns on how to implement the Charter and the benefits it will have for them. And so while we've experienced some challenge implementing the Charter, and I will conclude with this point, we also see the commitment of the signatories to signing the Charter, the implementation of the gender policies when it comes to showing their action plans and good practices on the observatory website, and the willingness to advance gender equality at the local and regional level. And we hope that the Charter and its observatory will continue to be an instrument to achieve equality for all. So thank you so much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the discussion later on.
Thank you really so much. That was super interesting and super useful. I think it's great to see also this kind of collaboration also, say, with the local and regional authorities, something that we don't see that often. Yes, I have already many questions for all of you, but we will move on with the presentations. So thank you so much. Now we have Dr. Niccolo Paolo Alessi from the World Trade Institute at the University of Bern in Switzerland. Niccolo is a postdoctoral researcher at the Institute for Political Science and the World Trade Institute at the University of Bern. And he's also now part of the research team of the HRJust project at the World Trade Institute. He holds a MA degree in law from the University of Torino and a PhD in law and European International Law at the Universities of Verona and Fribourg. His PhD thesis had been awarded the International Prize Giancarlo Dorio for the best thesis in Italian and comparative constitutional law. And he was also adjunct professor of comparative public law at the University of Aosta Valley, junior researcher at the Institute for Comparative Federalism at EURAC Research, and guest researcher at the Institute of Federalism of Fribourg. His main research interests are Italian comparative constitutional law, diversity, accommodation, climate governance, minority rights, autonomy studies, regionalism, and federalism. And he is also an expert of the Aosta Valley's legal system, and he has authored numerous publications and an edited book on these topics areas. And today, I'm very happy that he will present the Know the Gap and GEM project, introduction of the gender team of the World Trade Institute at the University of Bern. Thank you so much, Nicola, for being here, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Federica. Thank you for organizing this event and for having me. And thank you all for your very interesting presentations. I already see many points of contact and a possibility of future cooperations related to our ongoing projects. I'm really happy to be here and to have the opportunity to share our projects, especially the gender equality in the mirror project that I'm gonna describe to you in a few minutes. In general, today I'm going to present our institute and especially the activity of our gender team. Let me just start with a quick presentation of the World Trade Institute, in which the gender team operates. The World Trade Institute is an academic institution that provides teaching, research, and advisory activity, combining law, political science, and economics, in general with a special focus on international trade and investment. But as you can see, also for related to our activity, the institute is quite an independent institute in the University of Bern with a very broad research activity. And a very interesting point is that it applies an interdisciplinary focus in every project it has ongoing. This gives the institute great leeway to go on with many different kind of research projects in many different areas. And as you can see, here we have many different projects going on that can be categorized in these different clusters. So database projects, trade projects, investment projects. And then the part that is of more of interest for us is the sustainability and diversity projects, in which we can find our gender equality in the mirror project that I will describe later on. So let's just move the focus to the activities of our gender team. In 2018, the World Trade Institute established a permanent gender team and a gender coordinator was nominated. Our gender coordinator is Professor Elisa Fornalet, who is supported by several research fellows and administrative staff at the WTI. The gender team has been carrying out several activities related to gender studies and gender equality, and several important activities in this area. The first relevant activity is the drafting of the gender action plan of the Institute, which details the gender policy of the WTI. The gender action plan provides for clear and ambitious actions and commitments to gender equality in our institute that are in line with the guidelines that are also provided for by the University of Bern. But a second very important activity we have been carrying out for several years is the Know the Gap lecture series or gender lecture series. This is a series of lectures that takes place every year at the WTI that aims to contribute to the ongoing academic and civil debate on gender. And we try to gather every year prominent scholars, but also practitioners and international organizations leaders who have made significant contributions to this field, to the field of gender studies, from an academic but also a practical standpoint, which is really important as well. So this project has been going on for several years right now, and every year we try to focus on an underlying theme. So the first year it was gender equality and diversity. And then we had women's equal representation and participation. And the third year, gender parity. And this year, we will be focusing on the keywords of gender studies. The idea is really to try to build an updated glossary of this field, trying to focus on definitions and histories of concepts that are fundamental in gender studies, which is really a very variegate field. So we try really to put together different different kind of knowledges to create this updated glossary. What is really interesting about these gender lectures is that also they were the basis for different publications that are now accessible. One of these is also open access. The first one is Gender Equality in the Mirror, reflecting on power, participation, and global justice. And the second one is Women's Empowerment and its Limits. These two publications gather all the contributions that have been provided along these years in the gender lectures series, and they really give us many interesting fundamental insights on this area, especially on the area of empowerment, but also related to public and political participation of women, but also with a connection with any other field in which these issues are relevant, and I would say any field, absolutely. So this is our second important project we have been carrying out this year, and we are just finalizing the program for this academic year that will be out on our website, I think, in some days. So I'm really happy to tell you that we are really close to closing our program for this year, and we are really looking forward to go on with this really interesting activity. And then thirdly, and not less importantly, we have our project Gender Equality in the Mirror. This is a Swiss National Science Foundation founded research project that is focusing on the implementation of Article 7 and 8 of the CEDAW. Article 7 and 8 of the CEDAW set out women's rights to non-discrimination and equality in political and public life. So they state the right to non-discrimination, but also they ask state parties to ensure equal representation of women, not only at the domestic level, but also at the international level. What we really found important was to give a picture of the real implementation of these two articles at the domestic, at the international level. Also because this gives us the possibility to understand which policies are more effective in fostering or undermining in fostering women's participation, and which other contrarily are undermining women's participation at the national level but also internationally. We have been working on studying the implementation of these two articles, focusing on three key areas. So legal provisions adopted at the domestic level for domestic representation. Also legal provisions adopted at the domestic and international level for international representation, because as you know, there's this double perspective we have to keep focusing. So the implementation of Article 8 on the international representation of women also needs an implementation at the domestic level. And then we also focus on soft law and interpretative mechanism from human rights monitoring bodies like the CEDAW Committee and other UN bodies. What we are trying to propose is really providing a broad and complete picture of women's participatory rights, focusing on all these areas. So one of the most important outputs of our project is the creation of a data set of measures related to the implementation of these two articles, and as well of the recommendations of these issues from these UN bodies. And related to that, we created also two online tools that allows the users to explore and navigate in this data set quite easily. The first one is an interactive map. So I will show you that in a minute. That will give you a picture of the evolution of women's participatory rights through a timeline. But also, as you will see, you can also click on a specific state and then see all the developments that have been present in this state from the beginning. So you can find country-specific information about the implementation of these two articles of the CEDAW. And also a complete map in which you can graphically quite easily see all these evolutions. And then we'll have another section and another tool, and that is the graphical analysis tool, which provides much information on the implementation and on CEDAW recommendation on these issues. So you are really all invited to access and visit our website and to go through all these very interesting information that are the basis for our assessment also in our project. So let me just show you what you will see in this on this website. So this is the first image you will see when we will open the interactive map tool. So you will have this map and on the top you can see the timeline and then you can click on the timeline and see how this participatory rights regime evolved. As you can see here, now you can see the evolution on the map with different colors. We can see the ratification of the CEDAW, also the implementation of the right to vote, and also we focus on, we look into these states that implemented gender quota. For instance, that is naturally one of the most important measures that can take place to reinforce and foster women's rights. And then as you can see right now, I'm scrolling the Italian page and Italian information. You can see all the developments of this country related to the implementation of women's rights. So you can see the implementation, the ratification of the CEDAW, and then afterwards all the national regulations. And also you can find the recommendations of the CEDAW committee, which is really important because to have a real look at the implementation of the CEDAW, it's not sufficient to focus on formal constitutional regulations and also on statute regulations, but also to any other kind of implementation at any other level. So, and then this is, I'm sorry. Okay, this is the map that I already showed you. And then these are the graphs. You can go into these graphics and then select a regional group and then see which kind of recommendations any country received, and then also see the temporal evolution of the regulations of any country that we analyzed. So this website and these tools allow interested people really to have a complete picture on the implementation of women's participatory rights, and this can be really seen as one of the most important outcomes of our project that will also help us have a more complete understanding of policies and their effectiveness and their rationale, if they worked or not. That was it related to the project. But in the framework of this very same project, the gender team and Elisa Fornale have actively contributed to the drafting process of the 14th recommendation of the CEDAW committee, which actually focus on the implementation of these two articles. So we had a side event to the 84th session of the CEDAW committee, in which we could also provide a written statement that with Elisa Fornalé that contributed to the work and the drafting of these recommendations. And then we had our last event of our project, because we are really close to finishing it. And this was an international conference in which many of the members of the CEDAW committee participated, and then we had a real gathering of academics and practitioners on women's participation rights. And it was really a moment of exchange between the UN body member and academics and practitioners. And it was really fruitful and productive for everyone, especially for the CEDAW committee. And this, as I said, was the final event of our GEM project. So we are really looking forward to also our assessment phase and our drafting phase. And for this, I should also thank again Federica for collaborating with us with all of this as well. So with this, I think that I'm done. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward for this to discussion later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nicola. That was great. I think Elisa and her team and you also are doing a fantastic job, because it's not that usual to have a so active gender coordinator, gender team, and institution which develops them so much, and also through her projects. Also, Elisa is also reaching out to really international organizations, civil society, is also collaborating now as the project collaborates also with the HRJust project. So it's really, I think, a great example on how really to do research which has an impact also on civil society, not only research which stays at the university or at the center. So thank you so much. And we are moving on. It's really exciting to see so many observatory research centers being presented. And now we have another great, exciting research centers to be presented by Professor Veronika Bilkova. Veronika is the head of the Department of International Law at the Faculty of Law at Charles University in Prague, and senior researcher at the Center for International Law here at the Institute of International Relations in Prague. She is also the head of the University Center for Conflict and Post-Conflict Studies in Prague, and she is member and vice president of the Venice Commission of the Council of Europe since 2010, and of the management board of the European Union Fundamental Rights Agency since 2020. She was member of 4 expert missions on Ukraine, established under the OSCE Moscow mechanism between 2022 and 2024. Her fields of research include the use of force, international humanitarian law, international human rights law, international criminal law, and the fight against terrorism. And she has published extensively in Czech, English, and French. And Professor Bilkova, representative of the University Center for Conflict and Post-Conflict Studies at the Faculty of Law, Charles University in Prague. I'm very happy to have her here. And also Veronika is also collaborating as a great member of the HRJust project as well. So she's super active as usual. And I'm super happy to have also her here. And Veronika, you have the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Federica, for this kind introduction and for the invitation to join this event, which so far has been extremely interesting for me. I have to say I've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to maybe having some of the presentations to be able to go also back to some of the issues. I've prepared a short presentation, but I have to say I always struggle with Teams. So if I put it like that, can you see it? Or
yes, perfectly. Yes,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does it move somehow? Because
okay. Yes, perfect.
Okay. I can't see you now, but that's probably how Teams work. We've heard a lot about different observatories, about different projects, and also about different institutions. My presentation falls under the last two legs of today's event. That means I will present something which is at the same time a project and an institution. However, unlike most of the previous speakers, I will not focus on something which is already developed quite far or which is about to close, but rather I'm focusing on a center which has just started. We are a new center, started on the 1st of January of this year, which means that so far we do not have any website and we do not have any outputs to present. So in theory, my presentation could be rather short, just to tell you that the center exists and that's it. But that is why I decided I would take a broader approach to the topic, and I would actually proceed in 3 steps. I would first of all like to introduce the landscape of research institutions in the Czech Republic, because most of those who attend today's events are from outside. So I was hoping that it might be interesting for you to learn a bit more about how research is carried out in which institutions in the Czech Republic. And in the second step, I will move to this format of university centers, and I will introduce it in general. And finally, in the third step, I will focus on our university center for conflict and post-conflict studies. And please just make it sure for me that you can see the next slide, that it's moving, because I'm always confused with themes. Federica?
Now we are still on the second slide.
Okay, that's fine then.
Yes, that's perfect.
This is the third one.
Yes,
sorry
perfect.
for that, but I'm always confused with themes. Okay, so let me first briefly make an introduction into the research institutions landscapes in the Czech Republic, just to explain why this university center and the whole format of university centers is something quite new and quite atypical for the Czech Republic. So generally, we can say that we have 3 types of research institutions traditionally running in the Czech Republic. First of all, we have universities. But in the past, especially universities were mainly focused on teaching, not so much on research. This is rather coming now, and it's quite a welcome development. And it also explains why we have these university centers that I will move to a bit later. So first, we have universities. Secondly, we have something that is, I think, quite typical for countries of Central and Eastern Europe, and not that typical for countries of other parts of the world. We have this big institution of Academy of Sciences. In our case, it is the Czech Academy of Sciences. It is often presented as the child of the communist period, but actually it's much older because it was already founded, obviously, in a much simpler form in 1784. So it's actually quite an old institution, though it has changed throughout the ages and throughout the decades. It's really a big institution. It is one umbrella institution, which, however, covers 54 at the moment different specific research institutions, most of them focusing on the natural and technical sciences, though. So humanities and social sciences are in the minorities. One of the institutions which is interesting for us, those working in the legal area, is the institution which is called the Institute for State and Law. So this one is really typical for the post-socialist countries. The Czech Academy of Sciences is the biggest research institution and umbrella research institution in the Czech Republic, which means that it often has some advantages that other research institutions do not have. That brings me to the third category, other public research institutions. In the first decade of this century, we had a big kind of revision of the research landscape in the Czech Republic, and also a change in the legal form. So all institutions, research institutions, those existing outside of universities, had to accept this new legal form of public research institutions. That also applies to those institutions which are under the Czech Academy of Sciences, but we also have other public research institutions, dozens of them. They are basically public institutions in the sense that they are established either by different ministries or by different cities or regions or municipalities. So, for instance, the Institute of International Relations, where I and Federica are working, is also one of these other public research institutions. It was established in the past as a research institution belonging to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and now in 2000, more or less 2005, 2007, it was turned into these public research institutions. But these public research institutions still have a link to the original founder, in our case, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So this is the traditional landscape. Now, in the past, we can say a couple of decades, new research institutions have started to be founded in the Czech Republic. And they are often linked to specific projects, either international projects such as the ERC grants or Czech Republic's run or Czech Republic's funded projects. And that brings me to the next slide and to this format of university centers. So the university centers are a new type of research institutions which has started to be founded about a decade ago in 2011. They are founded on a specific platform of the Charles University in Prague. So this is not something that you would find everywhere in the Czech Republic, but only under the umbrella of the Charles University in Prague for the moment, obviously. This might spread to other universities as well. The aim generally, as you can see, is to support young, promising academic and scientific researchers within the highest quality basic research groups. This is exactly taken from the description of the project or of the format. And you can see that there are two main features. The first one is that the focus is placed on basic research. So it is not about applied research, which is often carried out, for instance, in our institution, in our institute, but it is about basic research, or should be, though we know that sometimes it might be difficult to disentangle the two. The second feature is that the emphasis is placed on young scholars, so-called juniors, which are defined within the project as anyone within 8 years after the completion of the PhD study. So it's not young in terms of age, it's young in terms of professional career in the area of academic research. Now, so far, we have had 3 rounds of calls for university centers. The centers are always selected based on call for projects, and the projects then go through a very lengthy assessment, which ends with a very short evaluation of the projects provided. Normally, we have around 100 applications, and around 20-something projects are successful, which means that about one fourth of the projects are successful in the 3 rounds. So the 3 rounds took place in 2011, 2017, and 2023, and the centers can always exist in the 1 round for up to 6 years, and then they need to reapply for financing and for staying within the structures. They are not autonomous in legal terms. That means that they fall under universities, under different faculties, and they don't have any autonomous financing. They are financed through the project money, but the project money goes through the faculty. At this stage, we are within the 3rd round of the university centers, and the 3rd round has resulted in the establishment of 27 research centers. You can see also the amount of money which is distributed annually to all these research centers, but it's important to stress that the financing is very unequal. That means that some centers really get millions and millions, and others get much less, but that's not an unjust element. It's simply because some of these centers are rather large, some of them are rather small. Some of the centers are also interdisciplinary, but it's very diverse. They are established within all faculties of the Charles University. The Charles University has 14 faculties, and most of the centers traditionally are within the faculties focusing on natural and medical sciences. Only a minority are centers within so-called humanity and social science faculties. One of these exceptions is indeed the University Center for Conflict and Post-Conflict Studies that has been established this year, and that I have the pleasure to be the main coordinator of. So the center, as you can see, is really very young, very new. It has just been established on the 1st of January of this year. It is supposed to run for 5 years, so a bit shorter than the maximum time. It is established within the Faculty of Law, more specifically within the Department of Public International Law. And as I already mentioned, it does not have any independence in terms of money or in terms of legal personality. The aims correspond to the overall aims of the whole UNSA structure, that is to carry out research, high quality research, mainly by our junior colleagues. And the area is obvious from the title of the center. So we focus on conflicts, means armed conflicts in this context, and on post-conflict studies. So the center has two main legs. One is focused really on conflict studies in terms of the research of armed conflicts from very different perspectives. And the other one is focused on post-conflict studies on transitional justice. For the moment, this center is not interdisciplinary. That means that we really carry out only legal research, but from different areas of law. We have colleagues from mainly international law, but also from constitutional law. And our hope is to attract also colleagues from other areas of law, such as criminal law, or for instance, civil law or labor law. But for the moment, it's mainly international lawyers and constitutional lawyers. But we hope to in future, we hope to cooperate not only with colleagues from other departments of the Faculty of Law, but also from other faculties of the Charles University, basically. The research team has altogether around 20 people, and we have two so-called circles. We have an inner circle and we have an external circle. The inner circle is made up by so-called senior researchers, anyone who completed a PhD not within the last 8 years. That means who is already an established scholar. We have very few people like that because the whole system, the whole project is really focused on junior scholars. So for the moment, we have 7 junior scholars, but we have just had a call for application. So we hope that very soon we will have new colleagues joining us, hopefully not only from Prague and not only from the Czech Republic. We also have an external circle, which is made up by experts from the Czech Republic and also from outside of the Czech Republic, from other countries. And these people are not really, technically speaking, part of the project, but we hope that they can bring some expertise that is lacking at our faculty. The planned activities are fourfold. So we obviously want to engage, especially in research, because that is the main purpose of all these university centers. But we also want to organize academic events. The first big event should take place in autumn of this year and should focus on the conflict in the Middle East, but we do not have any details at the moment. Then we also hope, because it's part of the university, so we also hope that we will be somehow able to link the research activities with teaching and to offer to our students, both Czech and international students, some new courses or at least lectures on topics falling under the scope of research of this center. And we also hope to have public outreach, because we realize that the events which are under research in our center are often commented upon in the public space, but very often by people who are not really aware of the legal framework. So we want to provide legal expertise also that could be used by media, by the politicians, by the general public. That is for the moment. As I mentioned, we are just at the beginning of our life, so we hope that we will have more to report in one of the subsequent events that will certainly take place and that will be organized by Federica. So thank you for your attention. I would be happy to address any questions, and I really hope that we will see some of you in one of our future events. Thank you, and thank you, Federica, for this event.
Thank you so much, Veronica. That was really great. I think it's very important also to it was really great also to hear about more of the Czech research landscape, because it's very important also gives to always remember also the dimension in which we are carrying on our research. Thank you so much for this great overview, and thank you so much also for your work at this center, which is great. And before going to the discussion, we have last but not least, the last presentation from Ms. Marcela Zarubova, who unfortunately could not join us online real time, but she very kindly recorded her presentation, so I will share my screen and the video presentation with you. And Marcela is leading the documentation and the information unit at the UAC Documentation Center here in Prague. And she's a member of the section of International Organization and Archives and Human Rights of International Council of Archives, and also former Czech representatives in the European Network Against Racism. And Marcela will present on the UAC Researcher in Residence program as platform for reflective dialogue. I think it will give a very interesting perspective on how they are carrying on research within an international organization. So hopefully we'll be able to share the video with you. Let's see if I can share. Don't see the video anymore. Let's see. Sorry, just 1 second. Trying to see. Maybe okay.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on your time zone, from the OSCE Documentation Center in Prague. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you today live, as I'm at this very moment traveling to The Hague. But nevertheless, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak.
Sorry, they told me that they cannot be seen. So let's see if because it should be. Okay, let's see. No.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on your time zone, from the OSCE Documentation Center in Prague. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you today live, as I'm at this very moment traveling to The Hague. But nevertheless, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak in such a good company and share with you our programs and projects regarding research on and about in and about our organization. So let's dive in. What I will be focusing on is the role of the Documentation Center as institution with archival holdings, but also with targeted outreach programming in the context of intergovernmental organization which we are. And I will use the case of the Researcher in Residence program as a platform for a reflective dialogue. Just before I go there, just a few words about the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. It's the largest regional security organization and regional arrangement under Chapter 8 of the UN Charter, with 57 participating states in North America, Europe and Asia, and 11 partners for cooperation. The origins dates in the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe in the middle of the Cold War in mid-70s, when 35 states from NATO, Warsaw Pact, some neutral, to met in several times intensively in Helsinki for 2-3 years and discussed issues on security and cooperation in Europe, and concluded with signing Helsinki Final Act, which set the basis for what we call today a comprehensive approach to security issues. We look at the security from different angles, or from three dimensions, as we call it: political, military, economic, and environmental, and human dimension, last but not least, including human rights issues. The states and the organization does it through political dialogue about shared values, and through also practical work, which should make a lasting difference for more than 1 billion people in the OSCE area. Decisions between the states are taken by consensus on a politically, not legally binding basis. So this was OSCE in a nutshell, and with a map representing the geographical locations of the all participating states and partners for cooperation. So when speaking about the topic of this roundtable, I will just mention briefly how civil society is supported and addressed. It's through several channels. OSCE Secretariat's programmatic departments, such as Gender Issues Program, or combating trafficking in human beings, through OSCE institutions, High Commissioner on National Minorities, Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, and the representative on freedom of media. And also in field operations, which directly support host countries on site in the implementation of not only human dimension commitments. There are several initiatives and research hubs and projects. The autonomous one is the OSCE network of think tanks and academic institutions, which has, I think, 140 or so members, research institutions from the participating states, which are engaged in academic and policy research on OSCE relevant topics. I believe some of them are also, or their representatives here today, like Institute for International Relations or University of Helsinki, namely Center for European Studies. The OSCE network is an informal platform, which is now continuing as the OSCE expert network. Internal initiative, OSCE Academy in Bishkek, is a regional center within the regional organization of higher education and a forum for regional security dialogue and research. And this is a product of partnership between the OSCE and the government of the Kyrgyz Republic. And just last honorable mention, OSCE Perspectives 2030, which is an initiative of the Office of the OSCE Secretary General. It's supported by ODIHR, Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights, also the above-mentioned Academy in Bishkek, and Friedrich Ebert Stiftung Regional Office. And it aims to integrate youth perspectives into OSCE security debates. Now let's speak about us. Research and residence program run by the Documentation Center in Prague since the late 98, but mainly since early 99. It developed throughout the years into a flagship program of our center with more than 270 participants from the OSCE and Partners for Cooperation region. The researchers are not affiliated directly with the OSCE. They do not have any employment contract or official capacity relations with the OSCE. The topics are are selected by them and driven by the interests or agreement between them and their mentors. Just a bit of statistics, almost half of the subjects investigated within the framework of the program fall under a human dimension or cross-dimensional gender issues, climate changes, women participations, all different, very various range of topics. The center, documentation center, is among others a repository of the CSE OSCE archives. So the historical records and documents from the era of Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe, and also after the transformation into organization until the recent past. We, of course, are guided by some internal regulatory framework as regards the access to our funds, but plus code of conduct for each of OSCE official, but also we refer to international standards and ethical codex. I listed here several principles or which I find for this topic important. One stating that archivists should promote the widest possible access to archival materials and provide an impartial, with emphasis really on impartial, service to all users, while respecting both access and privacy and act with the boundaries of relevant legislation. So why impartial? I'm emphasizing this because this is how I see our position. This should be neutral and impartial. Sometimes we are asked by the candidates, could you tell me what to research on, which would be beneficial for the organization and for me as a possible future employment. This kind of expectations of quid pro quo transactional relationship is something which we don't support or encourage. Instead, we don't have any privileged users or groups within the program, and we do not interfere or influence the interpretation of the information they find here. So from my point of view, what are the benefits of this approach? Of the direct access to primary and secondary sources combined with archival impartiality. I think it's what enables a free exchange of views and both-side dialogue. Not a reflective dialogue as an educational tool which is used in real time in the classroom, but rather as an asynchronous exchange. I listed here showing some examples. One which is about our knowledge as an organization about our past, reflected by our two alumni, French historian Nicolas Badalassi and American Sarah P. Snyder, the OSCE and the end of the Cold War, Diplomacy, Societies and Human Rights, 1972 until 1990, which there Nicolas and Sarah are trying or are answering questions or exploring questions what role did the diplomats play in shaping the 75 Helsinki Final Act? How did that agreement and the CSE more broadly shape societies in Europe and North America? And how did the CSE and activists inspired by the Helsinki Final Act influence the end of the Cold War? So this is this historical reflective perspective, but also what we can receive as from researchers is impulses and recommendations for today and for future. Like from the example of Bradley Reynolds, who, since his participation in the program, is regularly been preparing and publishing analysis and policy papers on the current developments in the OSCE and the future perspectives. Currently, he's the lead of the project OSCE by all elevating civil society voices, which is prepared for the occasion of next year's anniversary of Helsinki Final Act and the upcoming chairpersonship of Finland to the OSCE. Bradley is a doctoral researcher in political, societal, and regional change at the University of Helsinki. And I think instead of me concluding with some statement of my own, I would use Bradley's and the project team's quote, which says that the OSCE offers unique policy opportunities as it functions both at the level of high politics as well as civil society. As such, the OSCE should be considered a provider and promoter of innovative security in which civil society takes a leading role. So with this, I'm wrapping up my presentation. Enjoy the discussion. I'm sorry that I cannot be with you, but nevertheless, thanks for this opportunity once again. And that would be all. Thank you.
So that was from Marcella, and of course, if you want to reach also Marcella, you can also tell me, and I will be happy to put any of you in contact with her. I think it's interesting to see to have this presentation on how also research and how international organizations interact also with experts and researchers within their work. And with that, we have still 10-15 minutes of discussion. So I'm officially opening the floor for any questions, comments that anyone can have also from the speakers to each other. And maybe more generally, I mean, there has been so many presentations, so many inputs. One thing that maybe would be interesting maybe to see also to reflect all of us together is how actually our work not only is impacting civil society, but it will be interesting to see which kind of feedback also we are receiving from civil society, from stakeholders on our work, and how this feedback is in turn is being reflected in turn on our own activities. So to see how we can enhance this kind of cooperation. So before giving the floor to anyone in particular, I don't know if any of you has some questions, comments, general reflections for anyone. I see Yolanda, please.
Okay, thank you, Federica. Well, I have two questions. One is general for you and for all of us, is because I see that there are a lot of commonalities between our visions and our activities. Okay, so I would say that we are part of a global support community to human rights and the different intersections. In cases more connected to gender equality, but also there are questions about climate change and the other challenges. So my question is how to stay in contact, or how we could link our activities or relevant initiatives and projects from the different observatories, for example. So I don't know how to do it in this moment, but I think that would be important to stay connected and to create synergies and to benefit to all stakeholders, including civil society. This is my general question. Then I have another, this is for especially for not for Annelies, but Annelies underlines one of the challenges about gender equality, that is the anti-gender movements that we are that happens today. And I would say not only in Europe, we have similar experiences from the Gender STI project, in particular from the US, that are a movement against diversity, equity, and inclusion. In the US, it's amazing because many states are legislating against this concept, and there is a risk that at federal level also, well, this is a problem. So the same in Europe. So this is something for our reflection about gender, and that's my comments.
Thank you so much. I think, yeah, super important question, how to stay connected. I think that actually was one of my, one of the ideas also this roundtable, just to have a first step to try at least to know each other, because it's there are so many realities, so many projects out there, and sometimes it's difficult also to map what's going on in general. And I think we should all reflect better on how, to not to leave it as as today, but to try to keep in touch and to exchange also what our activities are, what are so that to enhance this collaboration. And since there was a question directly to Annelies, I don't know if you wanna react on this.
No, thank you so much, Federica. And I actually want to react a little bit on the how to stay connected. And I think you providing us this platform is already a great way to start the connection and stay connected, because now we know each other, we know the work that we're doing individually and together. And for example, if there are other events or other synergies that we can, create together, we can say, oh, I know this person from this event, let me put in touch. And this is also a way to, create the connection and keep the collaboration going. That was the first thing I thought as well. Of course, the next thing would be creating a website, but then we already have so many websites nowadays. When it comes to the anti-gender movement and the increase that we're seeing in many countries, and with a lot of the elections happening around the world, I thought it was important, to highlight it a little bit in my PowerPoint, because we do see it as well at the local and regional level, and we see it with the upcoming European elections, and the next presidency of the Council of Europe, as many of you know, will be Hungary, which for us already presents a few difficulties when it comes to their views on certain topics. But I think one of the things that we've discovered that helps is that if you look at it from a spectrum, you will not be able to convince the people who are from, the extreme right parties or the extreme right political views, because they're usually set in stone. But what you can do is the people who are in the middle, who are still understanding and trying to get the knowledge, is to have those people engage in the conversation and listen to their points of views, as well as the far right, because they need to be part of the conversation. This is why we have a democracy. We might not agree with them, but they're part of the conversation. And it's also a way to understand different points of views. But I think what we need to focus on is especially the people who are in the middle, that are still discovering and understanding what it is to be gender, what is gender, what is gender equality, and to show that it benefits everyone. It's not benefiting just women. It's benefiting men, transgender people, queer people, and everyone on the spectrum. And I think it's, to show that it's not just a fight from women against men, but it's a fight that we all need to do together. So that's the first thoughts I had. And thank you so much, Yolanda, for bringing up the question and opening discussion, because it's very interesting also to know, maybe from a research and university perspective, what can be done in sense of data as well. So thank you, Federica.
Thank you so much. So now if someone else wants to have a few words more. No, Nicola or Federico, if you wanna, or Veronica, if you wanna say anything, please. You're welcome.
No, I would just say that I'm really happy that I got to know all of you, and we got to exchange on our projects, because I really see many important synergies we can build on, especially on the theme of participation. So we see the theme of participation at the local level, which is really of most importance if we talk about women's participation, but also women's participation and representation in treaty making in any kind of field. So I really see that this could be really a first step for everyone, just maybe to also envision future collaborations, because the dimensions of women participation are really multiple, and we will need to find a way to channel them, and to find also to collect best practices at many different levels. So the local level can really generally also can give many important ideas related to that, and best practices that can be also reproduced in other levels. So I would really be interested in going into your project more, and maybe exchange more in the future to go even deeper in this area, also specifically, also practically, I would say, than just to make a contribution. So thank you very much.
Yes, and a few words from me as well, and I share Nicola's vision of collaboration, and I look forward to continuing this conversation. And on our side, what we are trying to do is to link up in particular with women, feminist, queer movement from the global south, and indigenous movement in particular. And this has really changed a lot the way in which we see intersectionality here in Europe as well. So we are bringing in concept, methods, approaches, and we're working around notions such as the pluriverse, for instance, or going beyond a certain understanding of politics, and the law, which is still there was monoversal, centered on a liberal, Western, white European form of subjectivity, and we see the necessity to expand conversation beyond disciplines and fields and also beyond our own cultural, geopolitical region. An example of the possible outcomes of this process is that, for instance, a few weeks ago in Geneva, some members of Unruly Nature have launched in Geneva a diplomatic council of European river. I'm speaking of Sophie Gosselin and David Gebartoli, and this is a groundbreaking initiative that's trying to rethink intersection between humans and non-human from the perspective of bioregions, and this challenges to also rethink rights and our relation with non-human, but from a very gender-based and also socially engaged perspective. So again, this is work of association, of local militants, of philosophers, designers, artists, and then policymakers as well that came together in Geneva a few weeks ago to launch this initiative. And this is not an Unruly Nature project, but we are part of that initiative. We will continue to develop as well, and is forcing us to rethink a lot of principles that we usually take for granted. So I welcome more exchanges, and also I hope I can learn from you. As you know, we are mostly based here in political ecology, environmental humanities, but I think there is ground for collaboration in the future. Thank you very much.
If I may, I do not have much to add. I completely echo what has already been said by basically all the previous speakers. As you could see, our center is slightly different, both in terms of the stage of its development, but also in terms of its topic, because it deals with not with gender or not with climate change, but with conflicts and post-conflict arrangements. So it's somewhat different. But despite that, or maybe because of that, I have found this encounter and all the presentations very inspiring, at least in two areas. The first one is really substantive, because you are dealing with issues that we probably will not study, but we will certainly encounter in practice. So we might provide even material for you. Just by coincidence, I was counting, because I found it interesting, how many of these centers, the university centers, are headed by women. And it's quite interesting because it's always a tiny minority, but it's moreover decreasing. So in the first round, we had 5 women out of 27. In the second round, 4 women out of 28. And now it's only 2 women out of 20. So there is definitely a decrease, and you see it's 1/10 as kind of the maximum. So it's really something that even if we do not study, we will definitely encounter it in practice. So there's one element or one area in which I have found really these presentations very inspiring. The second one is about know-how and about logistics, about how to do things. For instance, when Federica first came with the idea of having this observatory and somehow engage me in it, I was thinking she wanted really to open some planetarium, because in Czech, observatory truly means a planetarium. So I was a bit surprised. But then she came with more concrete ideas. I started understanding what she meant. And now with all these presentations about different observatories, it makes sense to me. I finally start understanding what it is all about, because that's a format which is not all that known, at least in our legal landscape here in the Czech Republic. So I'm really very grateful for these sources of inspiration. And I would also like to echo the idea that this should not be a one-time event and one-time encounter, because it's very important to really combine forces and work on these issues, both from the technical point of view and from the substantive point of view together. So I really hope that this will be the first but not the last encounter. Thanks, Federica. This has been really tremendously helpful.
Oh, thank you. Thanks to all of you. I think it was super helpful, first of all, for me, and also for the project, because also, as you can see, also the HRJust project of the observatory is really the beginning, the very first days of the observatory. So it's something that we are creating, but I think it's great, first of all, not only to meet each other and also to know from each other, also to know new methodologies that we can also bring then back to our research, to our studies. So as far as I understood, yeah, and very happy that this format of knowing each other and bringing together different realities has worked, because it has been also a bit of an experiment. So, but thank you so much to all of you to be so proactive and so enthusiastic of this format. And I think one of the next steps will be to try to have also a second round of this kind of roundtable, also inviting maybe also other realities, and maybe to focus more not only on know each other, but maybe on some concrete ideas, like or to share in our methodologies, how we are doing things. So this is something that, from what I understood, is something that will be very useful from so that can be applied also in our research, because even though we are researching on slightly different topics, but in the end, I think this cross-cutting, cross-fertilization helps everyone in the making. So I'm really grateful that this event was so nice, at least for me. So, and I think we are also perfectly on time, which is it's been really great. So I'm very grateful to all of you who have been so very good timekeepers. You are the best speakers that we could have. And thank you so much to all those the participants who joined us. And so we will have, of course, other events. So we will all stay connected from now on. And thank you so much again for being here, for joining us. And I wish you all a very great day. And thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Federica.
you. Bye.
Bye
Ciao,
bye.
ciao, Federico.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Hi, Marina.